Sean O'Brien, General President of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters.
Put your helmets on, buckle your chin straps. It's a full contact sport.
We're going to find out who has a better bad idea. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
You're like my favorite guest. This is your third time.
My pleasure.
This is great. You know, not only I was a huge fan growing up, but I just love your passion, especially when it comes to the AI. I mean, this is a real threat, and we've talked about on previous episodes a lot of the negative aspects, a lot of the effects it has. But there are some studies out there that indicate it could be good in certain situations, utilization by doctors to do a deeper diagnosis, to help read deeper into images and stuff like that. Do you see any of the value of some of this AI in a positive light?
Well, Sean, that's the pitch, isn't it?
It's the pitch, right? And it's, to your point, it's the narrative that's out there that we're reading about.
Interesting. We're waiting.
But how long do we wait?
In the meantime...
I'm not pitching it.
In the meantime, we've got like Sam Altman and Mark Andreessen and people like this saying, if you don't give us all your money, China is going to take everyone over and we'll all die.
So for our audience, who are those folks you just referenced?
Thank you for asking. Sam Altman is the president, owner, chair, I'm not sure exactly, at OpenAI. Thank you, co-founder, CEO of OpenAI. And they have Sora and ChatGPT and other things, I'm sure. And then Mark Andreessen is a big investor in tech. Is
he an investor or an innovator?
Well, I think he's just an investor in tech and has been for many, many years. But Mark Andreessen has an interesting paper called How AI is Going to Save the World.
That guy looks like me, about 80 pounds heavier.
But if you go, how AI will save the world.
Yeah, you don't have to agree with it.
And if
you can say, absolutely not, Sean. You're better looking than him.
Oh, Sean, I didn't even think I needed to say anything.
Well, our audience wants to hear.
So he has this paper called Why AI Will Save the World that he did in 2023 that... When you see, and he goes into each sector and how it's going to save these sectors. By the way, nobody asked. Like, we're all, like the entertainment business, we were fine. Like, didn't need. Everything he lists there is talk about pitch, is basically a pitch or a summary for a horror movie. Look at this.
Let's take the first one.
Look at this one.
Every child will have
go ahead and read that one.
I'll try and read it. I might need AI to help me out here. I went to Medford High School.
Come on, you can do it.
You were in Winchester, right next door.
You're going to do it. You're going to do it. There.
Every child will have an AI tutor that is infinitely patient, infinitely compassionate, infinitely knowledgeable, infinitely helpful. Stop there.
Okay.
Isn't that what human educators, for the most part, are?
Yeah.
Okay. So
and also developing relationship with the teachers.
Right.
Yeah.
So some relationships you don't want developed, like Mary Kate Letourneau and all that stuff, right?
Okay.
But
you went there.
You were thinking it. But isn't that
what? Read that second sentence.
But think about it.
Yeah, exactly. Replacement.
Right, replacement.
Yeah.
And where do those folks go? These educators that are tutors. Listen, most tutors I know, never had one. Danny, I'll ask you about yours, the one later. But most tutors are highly educated educators that may be taking a break from educating because they're raising their families or whatever the case may be. They depend upon an income.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're actually passionate and care about what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like what is just that first bullet point to?
Right. So let's read that second sentence.
The AI tutor will be at each child's side every step of their development, helping them maximize their potential with the machine version of infinite love. Machine version.
Wait, of infinite love. Now,
how is that computer gonna hug them?
All right. Exactly. I'm gonna give you two things. First of all, that is a summary of the film Megan. Mm-hmm. Am I right?
100% right.
Okay. The second thing is this group, these tech bros, I mean, and it's full of it. Like every single one is a summary of a horror movie. Infinite love. What have we been told and experienced as infinite love?
What have we been told or the experience?
Told, experienced. I mean, some people have been told and some people have experienced it.
Well, when you experience it, there's emotion involved. There's from a human
God.
Oh, God. Yes.
From God.
God.
The tech bros. So two things are going on.
Did you watch the Tucker Carlson Ted Cruz interview, by the way?
Oh, I saw the bits of it about
I don't want to get
where
into the Bible and, Ted Cruz is doing all this stuff because the Bible says it.
I didn't see.
Oh,
what stuff is he doing?
Everything. Everything that he's trying to justify is because the Bible said.
Because the Bible said. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a lot of stuff in the Bible. Is he doing everything that's in the Bible?
Well, he was just
that would be
looking for an
hard.
excuse, that's all.
Okay, I didn't see
No,
that.
God, you're right. God.
Okay.
The creator, our creator.
So these tech bros, and they're very blatant about it. It's interesting to me. Like, wow, you're just like, they're talking about AI. So not only are they trying to replace workers, trying to replace even your sense of agency or identity, or by taking away all the things, writing. I mean, when you write things, even if it's an email, you're expressing what is in here in a cohesive way for another person to receive. Okay, letter, if you're writing a note to somebody or writing a story or writing an email, whatever it is. So they want to take people's agency from them. They want to take jobs from them. They want to, and they want to be a replacement religion. And I'm not saying, doesn't it seem like that? I'm saying this is what they are saying. You can find many quotes of them talking about AI as a religion, talking about AI, creating a replacement God, lower G, that they control. So they want all the money. They want a godlike status, or even a puppeteer status over the God that everyone else is tapping into. It's sick. And the thing about some of the descriptions I've seen about it too are like, it will do all this for you, do all this for you. And I'm like, wow, I'll tell you a big difference. So in a way, they're trying to build or they're trying to sell it as a type of antichrist, meaning like opposite, meaning it'll always be there for you, always give you answers, always give you wisdom. It will love you. It will never leave your side. Okay.
How does it love you though?
Let's ask Mark Andreessen.
Right. So think about this.
Yeah.
We're children. We grow up in a house and with parents or a parent. And I remember growing up, if I had a problem at 7 or 8 years old, whether it was school related or life in general, and I went to my mother and I said, "Ma, this is awful. I feel awful about this." And your parents or your mother or your father said to you, put their arm around you, gave you a hug, and said to you, "Don't worry about it. It's going to be okay." Mm-hmm. You had that emotional attachment. You had that reassurance from the person that loves you the most, that brought you into this world. At that point in time, that problem wasn't non-existent. You didn't sweat it. How is this AI going to replace that?
Well, it could have it say the same thing to you.
Right.
But here's what it's not going to do. And here's what love looks like sometimes. They give you a hug. They say, "Don't worry about it. It's going to be okay." And then they say, "You're going to have to go back to school and you're going to have to stand in front of that person and say, 'You're not going to talk to me like that again.'"
Right.
Which might be the last thing you want to do.
So as far as
it's never going to challenge you. That's why it's going to succeed.
It's never going to challenge you.
Exactly.
Right. To the point where you're taking direction to reassure yourself.
To become a better person.
Right.
It's never going to make you be a better person. It wants to keep you, just like I said, if you stay the same, then algorithmically, if you stay the same algorithmically, it's much easier to sell to you. And that's what everything behind this is, not to make anything better. It's to make the people that are controlling it more wealthier.
So let's look at it from a job perspective. And you look at all this positive bullshit that this guy's spewing out of his mouth. Do you think they ever take into consideration, outside of considering how wealthy they're going to be, more importantly, I think you made a great point, is they're going to be playing God. Mm-hmm. And that's power. Trying to, and that's power, right? Uh-huh. Power is a pretty dangerous tool to have in your chest. Do you think they ever take into consideration what is this going to do to the workforce in general? Not just blue collar, but white collar in general?
Okay, this is why they're, pounding the table about UBI, about universal basic income.
Mm-hmm. Well, what happens with that? I mean,
all right,
who funds that?
Who funds that? Well, let's take it through. Government funds it. Let's look at it this way. To me, it's money laundering for them.
Right.
They're paying taxes. Those taxes go to our UBI. Then we take that money and pay for these AI services. So they just got their money back. That's why they want UBI.
But if I'm doing a job that I'm making $100,000 per year for, and I can be replaced by AI, and where do I go?
Yeah. Do you know that, and if you want to check me on this, in the Great Depression in the 30s, I'm pretty sure, and everybody, everybody agrees that was like the worst unemployment we've ever had. I think it was only 25%, right? So we only had, not 50%, not 75%, but I'm pretty sure it was 25%. That's all you need to get that kind of disastrous result.
Well, in what they're talking right now, some of the stats that you read about and you hear about is
25%.
That we could be looking at it in a 10-year period without any type of regulation or minimal regulation. We could be looking at, double-digit unemployment, 15 to 20%.
Yeah.
Now, if that doesn't cause the greatest depression, but where do these folks go? I've had a lot of personal interaction with a lot of these politicians around the country, and we're fighting every single day on autonomous vehicles, whether especially commercial autonomous vehicles that want to operate without a human operator. We fight technology every single day. Recently, I was on, and we're getting a lot of bipartisan support because there are some people who actually get it, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent on a state level, where they're like, look, we represent constituents in our community. That's our job. And is automation, is technology, is AI in the best interest of our constituents?
Yeah.
And take California, for instance, right? And I can't stand that governor. I honestly cannot stomach him, right? And I just think
I think he probably can't stand himself.
And you know what? He probably can't because, when we look at ourselves in the mirror, we have to judge our moral compass every day.
Yeah.
And does he actually think he's doing the right thing by his constituents? But, we worked on a bipartisan bill in California, bipartisan support, and not by small margins. It was large margins that people supported this bipartisan. It was to require human operators in commercial vehicles. And it's a no-brainer when you think about it. I mean, I drove a truck my whole life, tractor-trailer driver. You have an 80,000-pound vehicle going down the road, right? And you have a human operator behind there. The best computer you have is the human instinct and reaction. And when you tell people the horrors that you see out on the road when people fall asleep, or when you have, state troopers, Republican legislators who are state troopers telling you how this is bad, and you sign off on it, saying we're going to support this, and you get a governor like Newsom that vetoes that. Okay.
Is that what he did?
He vetoed it.
Man.
Right. And it's like, I don't get it. Not even take away the public safety risk, take away all that, because that's the most important. But look at it from a perspective of a jobs killer.
Yeah.
Right. Who, to your point, where do you go? You're going to go on the system. You're going to go on some part of the system, which is further going to, add debt to the bottom line of your state. It's going to diminish communities because those once affluent middle-class communities are now going to be, no work, not upkeeping your houses, not paying taxes, foreclosure, everything else. I don't understand why these people are not looking at that way. I had another interaction with the governor from Colorado, who's a Democrat, whose same type of bill was put forth him 2 weeks ago. I called him up and I said, look, this is bad for us. Do you understand? Yeah. This is bad for working people, not just Teamsters, not just truck drivers, bad for working people. He said, oh, don't worry about it. I've been with the Teamsters on every issue. I'm like, okay, what about this issue? Well, I wouldn't worry about it, Sean. It's going to be 20 to 30 years from now. I go, that's bullshit.
What's going to be 20 to 30 years from now?
This technology, artificial intelligence, automation.
It's already
right.
here.
I said, it's here. It's coming fast and furious. We're behind the 8 ball on this. I said, we have 200,000 people in the transportation industry that depend upon going to a job every single day. Where are you going to put these people? Where do they go? What do they do for work? Don't worry about it. We won't see it in our lifetime. That's the mentality. I'm like, no, it's here. It's coming fast. But my point is, where do these people go? Where do they go to make a living?
If he's thinking, wait, did he veto it as well?
He vetoed it as well.
Well, if he thinks it's not going to be here in his lifetime, why is he vetoing it?
Great point. And I said that to him. I said, if you're not worried about it, why not veto? Why are you vetoing the bill? Support it.
Yeah, why not?
If it's not going to be here, worry about that 10 or 20 years from now.
Yeah.
According to your perspective, and the infrastructure. I mean, think about all the tax dollars we spend on infrastructure in this country, roads, bridges.
Yeah.
And when you're allowing, an influx of, basically it's going to look like, it's going to be so fast-paced, heavy operation, you're going to destroy the infrastructure in this country. How is that good?
Well, maybe they're imagining that all those people will be put to work rebuilding the roads for the robot cars.
But what if you're not capable of doing it, right?
I don't know.
I'm 50 years old. Do you think I could go out? I'm 54 years old.
I'm not saying that's a solution. I'm saying it like sarcastically, like.
But why are we not taking into consideration what this is going to have on jobs? Look at your industry, for instance.
Yeah, terrible.
Tell us the worst case scenario if this bill passes and states are not allowed to regulate for the next 10 years. What does that look like in your industry?
This episode is brought to you by Catches Law Group, proud advocates for injured workers and their families since 1986. If you've been injured on the job, navigating the workers' comp system can feel like fighting an uphill battle. That's where Catches Law comes in. They've recovered over $3 billion for hardworking people just like you, and they don't back down when your rights are on the line. They know what it means to stand shoulder to shoulder with unions and workers across the country. Because at Catches Law, it's not just about compensation, it's about justice. Look, when you're a worker in America, you are subjected to some physical challenges. Your body is always repetitively doing lifting, bending, and stooping, and your body sometimes breaks down, and the employer doesn't recognize the sacrifice you make on behalf of them. And when you're injured, most employers don't see the value that you gave to that company. Learn more at catcheslaw.com. That's KECHES law.com. One more time, that's catcheslaw.com. KECHES law.com.
Well, it doesn't look like, well, hopefully Gavin Newsom, his term is expiring in 2026 anyway. His 2 terms, it will be over. But it will, so it doesn't look like he would be regulating it anyway.
He can.
I mean,
it's passing this bill.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't look like he was going to.
No,
anyway.
listen,
he just vetoed your thing.
He's bought and paid for by big tech.
Yeah, I mean, look at how many big tech are based in California,
right,
paying taxes. No, it's already really bad. We already have 40% less work, and not necessarily because of AI, but it's part of it. 40% less work than we did in 2019, so before COVID. I've seen people that are really experienced, say, like, who work all the time. I mean, like top of the line, that are like, oh my God, I've only worked once this year. I don't know what's going on. And the trouble is, a lot of those people are now just going like, oh, I just got to get out of the business and move on. Like sound mixers selling all their equipment or whatever to younger. And the apprenticeship that's necessary for the camera department, for the wardrobe department, for makeup, I mean, everybody, sound design, everything is going to be decimated. Like, even when we come back with the new, after everything's destroyed, the number of qualified people will be so small. It'll be such a specialty division of those who know how to do this. That's really sad to lose that, on top of people financially not being able to support themselves. Yeah, they're all going to have to find something else to do. It's
with nowhere near the income that they used to make.
Nowhere near the income. And also it's to know how to make a film is such a specific talent and calling and skill set that's not that applicable in other places. But man, when you are good at it and you're like an incredible dolly grip, I mean, can that person apply that gift in another division?
Like
I don't know.
I would like the analogy like you're a phenomenal teamster.
Or a fantastic teamster, and you know how to get all of those trucks
from point A to
from
point
point
B.
A to point B without losing an entire day of filming.
And or transporting cast to and from sets
and cats and cast.
Yes, cast and cast. Yeah, we won't get into the cast.
I'm thinking cats when you said cast.
But
no, it's true. I mean,
our jobs can be replaced. People say, well, there's always going to be vehicles. But if there's not human operators operating these vehicles, what's stopping, Waymo or one of those fucking disastrous
I don't like
industries, right? From transporting people from point A to point B, right? No human operator.
Yeah.
I mean, those are jobs.
They're jobs, and they're also like, anybody who is excited about, they're not even films anymore. There'd be like, AI videos being done, and you don't need a crew and you don't need drivers and all this. And I'm like, then first of all, you're not a filmmaker. And secondly, you have no idea. You've never been on a set. You have no idea what it's like to interact with the Teamster drivers, to be on the set, get a great shot, right before the light is gone.
I believe they call it the martini shot, right?
Martini shot, yeah. But getting it in, or something incredible happening in front of the camera that nobody planned on, and just the camaraderie on the set, really tight camaraderie on a set. That's all part of filmmaking. It's not just this output,
Right.
Like, look what I made. First of all, you didn't make it, you stole it.
Right. Well, stealing it, and then you get.
You're not a filmmaker.
No, you're not a filmmaker. What's stopping me? Like, say I was, gifted in computer science, right? Say I understood all this AI stuff. Why can't I create a film from my laptop?
Well, you don't have to be gifted at computer science to actually, just do a prompt in Midjourney. But yeah, shoot, if you're if you're a software engineer and you made this incredible program that does something, like that's something that you did. But
so at that point in time, I'd be able to consider myself a creative and an artist.
No.
And a visionary.
Artist? No, come on. No way.
People don't even understand too, like in your business, especially the film business, right, where we have a lot of blue collar good jobs in there.
Yeah.
And I would consider, knowing about what I've learned over the last 35 years, I'm a product. My dad worked in the film industry in Boston. And I've witnessed and I've negotiated contracts where you've seen such a change in the industry that affects people within the industry. Now we have this big threat of AI. We also have another threat that we'll talk about in a little while, is the overseas filming, because it's a lot cheaper. And technology is helping that along as well. But you look at the indirect jobs that are created as a result of the film industry. You look at the hotels, you look at the restaurants, you look at the lumberyards, you look at the caterers, you look at the food distribution.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize, and everybody thinks Hollywood is this rich, huge workforce. It's really not.
No.
And there's a lot of indirect spending and indirect investments that help create jobs as well in this industry. And I don't think people look at it that way.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, with them not giving the tax credits, when you mentioned the foreign, you go overseas and you get these huge tax credits, or bigger tax credits than you can get here oftentimes. Like, I'm not going to say the numbers right, but something like maybe 40% over there when you can only get 30%, in, say, New York City or Kentucky or something like this. So California has a tax credit that I think they just increased. The percentage, I think they just increased, but it's so difficult to get it. When you put in an application
you
to
can't.
Get it, it's almost impossible to get this tax. So it's Gavin Newsom saying he's going to double it, stunt. Or he's going to, make the percentage larger or something. It doesn't matter because it's too difficult to get it.
It's sometimes not worth your while to pursue it.
It's so hard to get it. Yeah, he wants to like take it up to 7. It won't matter. He could make it $3 billion and it still wouldn't matter because it's too difficult to get the damn thing. So,
in a situation like this,
but it's exactly this, like what you were saying. Like if that tax credit isn't available here, and we're not, so much of the business in Southern California, like you said, caterers, dry cleaners, restaurants, hotels, lumber yards are built are here because of the entertainment business. It's not like, we want to make sure that the workers in Detroit, because they got this tax, or not tax, but they got like this government. No, I forget
for the motion picture
Bush
industry?
or Clinton. No, they when they got a big bailout. I can't remember which president, but it was a while ago.
Section 181, 2004.
No, but not from the film business, but for the car. I was just saying, in the car manufacturing business.
Oh, yes.
So that benefited all the workers, okay, and they were going to export these cars, or people were going to buy them domestically as well. But the thing about so that benefited that business, and people say, and I say, we should be doing the same thing for the entertainment business in Los Angeles. And then people say, like you said, oh, who needs to help the entertainment business? And I say, you don't understand. When you help the workers in Detroit with that bailout, and I can't remember I can't remember which president did it. You benefited the workers.
You mean when they bailed out Ford?
Yeah, it was like in the
Obama.
Early 80s.
Obama, no, it was a
Obama?
crisis
I thought it
of
was
2008, 2009.
Well, there might have been another
Bush
one.
was leaving office when all that, the banking,
But that benefited the companies and the workers.
But it didn't really benefit the workers. You know why? Because in 2008, when they gave these bailouts to Ford, GM, the big three.
Yeah.
They had plants in Mexico. They had plants.
It didn't filter down.
It didn't filter down.
But
you're making an awesome point because
the point I'm making is they didn't. It's not like the restaurants and the hotels and everything around those factories that the business for them would change. But in LA, it does.
Right.
Because we're always, every time you set up a film, a new project, you're bringing in all these people. It's like you're setting up a circus, and then when you're finished, like everybody disbands. They come together
I always
again.
refer to it as a mobile industry.
So this tax credit would benefit all these businesses in Los Angeles, not just the film business.
Well, if there's a couple different arguments on what's trying to be done right now, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but just getting back to, these tax incentives and tariffs, you think about it this way, and you brought up a great point, the auto workers.
Yeah.
Right? You look at going back to 1993, when, the Democrats, who I'm a lifelong Democrat, probably not in good standing right now with the party, but because we're calling them out, right? Yeah. We're holding them accountable, and it's, again, morally, you've got to stick by what you were brought up on. But you look at these bad trade deals that were all done by Democrats, right? And they took most of our jobs, shipped them to foreign countries. These American companies that had their workforces in third world nations, all their profit margins was skyrocketing, right? And we lost, millions upon millions of blue collar jobs, whether it was in the auto industry, whether it was in manufacturing, steel manufacturing. Conversely, what's been going on now is, and there's a lot of Democrats that fought against NAFTA that weren't in favor of it, that are still there, like the Chuck Schumers of the world and others who, that's another conversation for another day about not having a moral compass. But you look at what the administration is doing right now, and I don't agree with everything the administration is doing now, nor should anybody, right? Because with any administration, right? With any administration,
impossible.
right? But when you're going to tariff and tax these countries that have been destroying jobs in this country because we're, basically doing on the cheap in third world nations, and you're going to tax them and bring back manufacturing, bring back the auto industry. I mean, you got plants in Mexico closing, coming back here, creating those jobs. That's a good thing. Why shouldn't the film industry be held to that same accountability? You've got, to your point, I think on a previous episode, you eloquently described, these tech companies or these other companies that are only in the business to support their main products, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right? You made a great point. I got to tell you, that opened my eyes wide, and I do deep dives on all these corporations. But why shouldn't the film industry, who I've often compared to as an American icon like Major League Baseball, why shouldn't they get the same benefits? And why shouldn't these companies be tariffed if they choose to leave the United States?
Well, this is why, I mean, I think there's ways to do that, particularly with the tech companies. I mean, tariffing a film is pretty difficult because it's mostly just labor, you know? I mean, I don't know how one would go about that, like what Trump, but I think his intention can be completed in that you could say to, especially the streamers, if you're going to do 3 productions in, the UK or Bolivia or wherever you're going to be, you got to do 3 of equal cost or whatever. I'm just making this up in the US. Like you got to do equal amount in
there's got to be a quid
or
pro quo.
Something like that.
Right.
Also, and this is when you talked about, I think you were touching on just like culturally, the export of American films and TV series, it's our biggest cultural American export. Series and films are our biggest American export for culturally. Why not have a cultural fund for filmmaking?
Who would fund that? The production companies?
No, from either a government fund, like they have in, this is not a new idea, like they had like in Russia and other countries. France currently has it, Canada has it. But there's another way to do it too, where every time you shoot in another country, you have to pay into this fund. And so there'd be something where look, most of what people know about America in other countries, and even in this country, is from watching films and TV series.
Yeah, I mean, look, I remember watching a documentary on a family from New York. There was 6 kids, and their father wouldn't let them leave the house. It's a true story. And the mother, they were like basically stuck in this apartment, and the father did not want them in society. And how they learned English, how they learned about culture, how they learned is
he let them watch TV.
They just kept watching TV. They kept watching movies, and pretty fascinating, disturbing.
Yeah.
I mean, they grew up in a huge, I think it was in Brooklyn. They grew up in and this was in the 2000s. They grew up in a building in Brooklyn where, the father would go to work, but the mother and the kids would be basically locked in that house.
Wow.
And they were able to escape, and they do still have a relationship with their parents. They were able to escape based upon what they learned by watching TV. But more importantly, they impersonated all this, all these characters. Yeah. So it was pretty fascinating. It was on Netflix.
Did they have a window? Could they see outside?
Yeah, they could see outside,
yeah,
but they couldn't go outside.
Oh, wow.
And I think they were homeschooled or something. It was pretty fascinating. But that was a great point. I mean, there's a lot of educational value as a result of this industry.
But Sean, you just brought up an interesting point. If we're going to reduce the amount of interaction with other human beings through AI, essentially everyone's going to be like that. Everything they get will just be from an AI program. I mean, if they choose, right?
Right.
Everything's just going to be from an AI program or whatever they get online. And they're not, you can look out you can watch TV and look out the window at life, but you're not actually going to have human interactions.
Well, didn't we already experience that?
Yeah, exactly.
Through COVID?
Exactly.
And I guess, did COVID help accelerate the progression of AI and all these?
Oh, and the success of places like Amazon and Netflix and
right.
stuff, yeah.
So, you look at what we're trying to ask for in this reconciliation bill, and we're working on it. As you know, we're working on it with the ambassadors that were appointed, and we're gonna see one soon. But there was an appetite for a nationwide tax incentive, 20%. At one time throughout the whole country.
Yeah.
And then because you're talking 2 different things, incentives versus tariffs, right?
Yeah, right.
But also you could commingle that incentive with a tariff.
Yeah.
If 75% of that motion picture or that series wasn't shot in the United States, then they would be tariffed based upon what the incentive was, which is pretty complicated. And I'm not certain there's an appetite for that. But, there's another good point that we've had discussions over is, if a film could have been shot in the United States, but the company chose to shoot it in another country, then they should be obligated to pay tariffs on that. In other words, I always use the scenario, well, people go to Paris, France to masquerade as New York
Yeah.
when they could have actually filmed it in New York. It's all skirting it's all skirting labor costs. I mean, bottom line. So what would your perspective be on that as far as tariffs versus incentives, or do we need to have both?
Well, like I said, because it's so much of it is labor, I'm not I mean, I'm sure it's easier to tariff goods than labor. But I think, what the film companies are seeking is to make it less expensively. And so the lure of having a national tax credit would definitely make a lot of companies, stay.
Right.
Because they'd be, they'd think, well, if I can do it for the same amount here, I might as well just stay here and save myself all the airfare.
So of the studios, would they be opponents or proponents for tariffs?
Well, I think right now they're opponents of it because they want to be able to shoot in these other places. But also, I don't know how you apply the tariffs because it's mostly labor. I'm not. I mean, maybe there's a way to do it. I'm not.
Well, I mean,
sure
they have to turn their payroll over. I mean, they'd have to turn their payroll over, and the rates. Thankfully, the industry is predominantly unionized, so there's standard rates for every craft that's represented there.
I think there's something in, and my friend Cassian always had suggested this. I think there's something in you got to pay into, and I think that's how France funds theirs. You've got to pay in. You've got to pay into the fund. If you're going to shoot out of town, or out of the country, you've got to pay into the fund.
And that's pretty easy to track.
And then that fund generates the money for new films in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Now, what do you think the future of the industry is? Worst case scenario, and how could we, avoid a worst case scenario, if that makes sense?
I don't know that. I think we were already in a worst case scenario in that it had become, at least creatively, it had become this content conveyor belt. And that was the focus. Some good work would pop up, but they were outliers instead of a goal, instead of a focus. And I was wondering when that content era was going to end, where you're making stuff to just play in the background. And that's the focus for the reasons we said, when we spoke before, to just protect, the castle, the moat around the castle, or the castle and the product just being the moat. But I think the worst case scenario is actually now our best case scenario, which is the destruction of the structure of the business, which I'm not advocating for it. It breaks my heart, but that is what's going to happen. And I'm saying to people, like, don't be afraid. I mean, yes, you'll have to find some other ways to make some money, but don't be afraid, because there is something incredible will emerge because they destroyed that structure.
So what does that something incredible look like?
Well, it's just going to be what I'm just calling the new. It's work that is really raw and real and human creatively. Just getting back to films that are really meaningful to another human being. Because for too long, the audience now has been executives at streaming companies instead of a paying audience, like individual people.
Right. Do people want that, though? Does the general society want that? They will?
They will. Here's how I see it going.
Because you look at it this way, right? The subscription. I pay $12, $13 a month, whatever it is. And for that month, I can watch whatever I want, regardless of...
How is that ever going to benefit filmmakers?
Right. Regardless of whatever I want, regardless of knowing how it was made, and the average person wouldn't care about, the content or anything else. Where growing up, when we grew up, if my dad had a good week at work, my mother would give us some money and we'd be able to walk down to that movie theater and see Rocky III in Medford Square, right? And we knew that was going to be a movie that we would see, and we may not see another movie for another month or two, right? So there's an argument of convenience versus convenience and abundance versus, a society where we once prided our ability to go to the movies and see a project. And
Yeah.
to your point, that was the basics, right?
Well, back then, I mean, the people that were distributing that, paying for and distributing that film, they wanted to get you in the theater for you to take that money and instead of going and buying candy to come watch that movie. So you were who they were making it for.
Right. The individual.
Right. But now films are made for tech company executives in order to facilitate their objective, which is to get people on the site.
It's a marketing tool.
Yeah. Yeah. But here's how I see it going. I think the audience will be enamored in filmmaking, or not filmmaking, in the entertainment business. That audiences will be enamored with AI, and they are already, either putting some AI videos together themselves through Midjourney and Sora and stuff like that, or having them made for them. I think the streamers, they've got years and years of viewing history on each individual, and they'll just customize stuff for them depending on what they see that this person likes to watch. And they won't bother to copyright them because they can make 100 of them a day for each individual. It doesn't matter. And then I think what they'll do is start licensing films from the studios. So this will be some income for the studios in order to do face replacement. And then for an upcharge, they'll say to each viewer, you can face replace, do you want to be Dorothy in Wizard of Oz tonight? Or do you want your boyfriend to be, as a birthday present, do you want to have his face on Luke Skywalker's body when you watch Star Wars together tonight?
Do you think they'll apply this to like dating apps too?
I'm sure they already are. But so people will be into it. And then like at the end of Super Size Me, right, where Morgan Spurlock is eating McDonald's for 30 days and he feels absolutely sick by the end of it, I think people will start rejecting it. AI will have infiltrated other parts of their lives too. Maybe they lost their job over it, or they got denied insurance because an AI program, denied them, and you have no recourse, things like that. And I think then they'll start rejecting not only the AI projects, but anything that even looks like AI. And at the same time, during that process, real filmmakers will have to have made projects that are really real and really raw and really human, and so unlike something that AI could imitate.
It can't be a generic product,
right? Because AI can do that faster and less expensive. And then after this destruction and the audience is rejecting these films, I think then the filmmakers and the audiences are going to meet on the other side.
And that's
of that.
part of your vision with Credo 23, right?
Yeah, right. So Credo 23, because I knew people are going to want some kind of, we established this a couple of years ago, it's sort of an organic stamp for films that don't use AI. So any filmmaker can apply for this at credo23.com. And, if they have a finished film and have this, and it involves, using unions too. And then people, when they see that stamp, will know that, oh, no AI was used in this film. And I think people are going to want that. They're going to want to know, like, okay, this actress, quote unquote, I'm watching through this entire film, and am I going to find out at the end this was an AI object? People want to be taken for a ride in a film, but they don't like to be tricked like that.
Right. So you made a couple just things. You had an interview that I watched recently where you were asked a question: could AI recreate an actor who's passed away and actually portray them as an actor in a modern day film?
Well, think about it. If you're an actor right now and you used to audition, your competition was all the other actors that are your type and your age who are available.
Your peer group.
Yeah, and who are available. Now you're competing against all the actors that are your age group, available or not, because they could license out their image. And also all the actors that are alive who are older maybe, but can license out their image at your age right now. Like say you're 20, right? And all the actors that have ever existed in the past who are dead now, who can license their image at age 20 and play your part instead of you.
This is some scary shit.
The competition is like staggering.
This is scary shit.
But here's the good news. So look, I believe all that's going to happen. But at the same time, there's a tunnel through of just not using it. Wherever you can not use it, don't use it. Like when when I go through, TSA at the airport, I have the option right now to not do the facial recognition thing. I'm going to opt out for as long as I can opt out. What a beautiful luxury, because someday I'm not going to be able to.
So, just wrapping this thing up, it's a pretty scary society with AI coming fast and furious. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty scary scenario as it relates to jobs moving forward. And it's a discussion I think you and I are going to continue to have as this evolves, because you are extremely intelligent when it comes to this. And I think our audience is truly enjoying these conversations. Now, before we wrap up, I got to ask you this. Are you ready for it?
No.
What?
What is it?
Come on. It's not that bad. If you could have lunch with someone, who would it be?
Alive or dead?
That's up to you.
Oh, Herman Melville,
Okay.
the author of Moby Dick.
All right. So you know what my answer was when someone asked me this question?
What?
First, I said my dad, because he was my best friend. He passed away 12 years ago. But then I had to take it another step further. My ultimate lunch, I'd love to meet Snoop Dogg.
I bet. Hey, Liz, I think you can make it happen.
Let's make it happen.
I think he can come on your show, don't you think?
I hope so.
Thank you for coming. And where can we find you?
Oh, sure. Well, on X, it's just Justine Bateman. Actually, if you just go to JustineBateman.com, it has links to everything. Substack, X, whatever.
Which search engine should we use for this?
Use DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo. You
Yeah.
got it. Listen, thank you very much for taking
you.
the time out of your busy schedule. And I look forward to more episodes with Justine Bateman, one of my favorite.
Well, I'm a great admirer of yours, so it's a pleasure.
Thank you.